Hello everyone, welcome back to some more thrift store finds, and today I thought I would go ahead and film a pickups video because what I found today is very unusual, not something I come across very often these days. Books on tape, old, especially Simon and Schuster audio tapes. I used to listen to those books on cassette all the time as a kid, particularly Star Trek. Like, I really wish, it's crazy, but I wish cars still came with a cassette player. Like, obviously I have one at home, I can sit and listen to these, but I always loved having them in the car as well. Obviously that would be way out of date, but I always really enjoyed these as a kid. The Star Trek ones, we had the local library before it moved when I was really young in like elementary school, was only a few blocks from my house, so I would ride my bike down in the summers and get a whole bunch of these. And I owned some as well that I would buy from the bookstore over the years. I love these. The Star Trek ones in particular, I've had a whole bunch of them today, some X-Files, all kinds of stuff. But I always really like the Star Trek ones because of the presentation. They were done really, really well. And even some of the early Star Wars ones, you have a great narrator reading through a fantastic, fun story. And on top of that, they add just enough atmosphere with background music and some limited sound effects to really bring it to life. It's a great like theater of the mind type thing. It was kind of like getting special bonus episodes or movies of some of your favorite franchises. It was just a really cool thing, and you don't see a lot of them anymore. Even like the CD didn't seem to do as well as cassette as far as audiobooks. And I've never delved into digital or whatever, but I found a ton of audiobooks today, huge stack, and I don't see them ever anymore. You'd think they'd be out there for how all the years they've been around, but just never run across them. And if I do, it's stuff that there's zero interest in and is not even worth holding on to for the store or whatever. But I've got a bunch today, starting off with a sealed copy of Vulcan's Heart. So a bunch of Star Trek. If you're not familiar with my channel, like the number one thing that unifies both myself and my wife in our interest and collection, the biggest thing is Star Trek. That is the number one thing. Where we find Star Trek stuff, we almost never leave it behind. And this is really cool. This is Star Trek Borg, and this was a FMV game for the PC. There's Star Trek Borg and Star Trek Klingon, which is also here. And they both had novelizations. I've read the Star Trek Klingon one, and not read the Borg one, but they were really fun games back on like Windows 95 and my old Mac, and I really enjoyed those. And I've never experienced the narrated book on tape version, so that would be really, really cool. I think this will be a fun way of experiencing those, because those were a lot of fun. And then we have Kahless Genesis Wave Book 3, which is narrated by Tim Russ, Tuvok. The other thing about a lot of these is there were a lot of good, really good narrators outside of people that were actually from these shows, but a lot of them were narrated by a lot of actors from the franchise, which is cool. Star Trek The Next Generation, The Valiant. I really like this book. I haven't read it in a long time, but I like that one. And this is cool. This is read by Anthony Stewart Head. If you are a fan of Buffy, Giles, and he has a really good reading voice. They're always really good selections. John Rhys Davies was another one that was doing a lot of them. Then we have John Delancey doing Star Trek Generations. We have Star Trek New Frontier. I've actually never seen any of the New Frontier in audiobook form. The really cool books. Those were ones that I was kind of hoping they would do a TV series of after Enterprise ended, but never happened. So Stone of Anvil and Excalibur Restoration. So that's really cool to see. Then we have Star Trek Deep Space Nine Warped. They had 2 copies of it, which is cool. Read by Odo himself, and this has a special memory. This is my favorite audiobook of all time, because I had this tradition where my dad, who passed away several years ago, would take me camping every single summer we went to. There were one particular campsite in particular. We would go every single year, just the two of us. We had like 1 year, I think, where we took my little brother, when he was really, really young. And when I was very young, the whole family went a couple of times, but most of my childhood, it was an annual thing, just my dad and I would go. And the place is pretty far away, so I would ride my bike down to a library and I never owned a copy of Deep Space Nine Warped. I would get Deep Space Nine Warped every single year, once a year, as an annual tradition, book on tape, and I would listen to half of it on the way up and then the way back, and sometimes a little bit while we were there before we went to bed at night. But that was like an annual thing, so that quickly became my favorite audiobook of all time, Deep Space Nine Warped. It was my favorite show at the time as well, and just a really good presentation on that one, and it is just ingrained in my brain because that was an annual thing every year. Another Deep Space Nine, we have the 34th Rule. And Voyager Caretaker. The handful of times that I run into Voyager ones, like Caretaker is always among them, and they had to make so many copies of that. Then we have Shatner's Star Trek Captain's Peril, read by Shatner himself. And then some non-Star Trek ones, but even some of these have some Star Trek relations here. We have H.G. Wells' classic The First Men in the Moon. There's a multi-voice dramatization from Alien Voices, and it stars Leonard Nimoy and John Delancey, so Spock and Q. So that is a great pairing for the narration for that. That is really cool. One from Millennium, if you're a fan of the X-Files, and a few X-Files ones. We have Skin and a sealed copy of Antibodies. Very common books. I see those book form all the time. And we have Anne McCaffrey, The Ship Who Won. This one is still brand new, sealed. And some older Terry Brooks. We have books 3 and 4 of The Heritage of Shannara. So some good old Keith Parkinson cover artwork and some books on tape. And one of these, one of them's read by Odo, so some more Star Trek. And a sealed copy of the abridged version of Episode 1. The Terry Brooks novelization of Episode 1, and that came out. And the abridged version of that on audio cassette. So that's it for those. That was really cool. Again, I just don't run into these very often. You'd think you'd see them every once in a while, but if I do, it's like Mary Higgins Clark or like some other junk that's just not worth even looking at. But this was really cool, and all that Star Trek. I rarely leave Star Trek behind, so that was really cool to grab. And then some more VHS finds and other stuff that's kind of typical that you'll see. One good Blu-ray find, and it's completely brand new, sealed with the slipcover. Ken Burns presents from PBS Cancer, the Emperor of All Maladies. And anything Ken Burns PBS is really good. I've never ever seen a documentary that is a Ken Burns PBS documentary that wasn't great. That maybe there's some out there, but I've never seen one that's bad. So this will be a good one for the store, brand new, sealed. And then we found another Warner Archive. I'm running to these lately, a few at a time in that one huge haul that I found, but Rasputin and the Empress with John Barrymore. So that is cool. Not one I've seen before, but that'll be another one to add up onto the store. And then also, if anyone's looking for Columbo, I ran into some Columbo today. Seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that was an interesting find. Those are really good, those older sets, and it's more the earlier seasons of Columbo, which is where it was at its best for me. Like seasons 1 to 4 is really peak Columbo. One kid songs. We have Good Night, Sleep Tight. I remember every one of these, and these one of those weird things where a lot of these I have not seen since I was 7 years old, maybe, or even younger. So I see it and it's like a memory rush because I haven't thought of it in almost 30 years. But it's always interesting to find those, and those can do well. And then these were in the bargain room, so these will be good to kind of stack together as a lot. But from the Hanna-Barbera Presents Timeless Tales collection with Hallmark. So it was Hallmark and Hanna-Barbera, and they did a whole bunch of kids' storybooks, and you have the Ugly Duckling, Puss in Boots, Rumpelstiltskin, and The Emperor's New Clothes. So those were just a cheap grab to find. Lot those all up. Teletubbies. Teletubbies were always just so weird and creepy. My little brother really loved them. I actually remember the one time, I think it was only the one time that he went with us to visit my grandparents in Germany. He was really, really little. And we laugh about it now because my brother is the most even-keeled, go-with-the-flow type person you'll ever meet. But when he was 1 to 9 or 10-ish, he was the total opposite. He was an angry little child. He is really funny. He's the complete opposite. But he was an angry little child. And we bought him a German VHS of Teletubbies while we were there to help like calm him down sometimes because he would just go nuts. Just remember that very fondly because he just would not comprehend that his tapes wouldn't work. We couldn't bring them, and he was angry. We got him one Teletubbies, and I think he saw like Elmo on TV or something, and he was fine. It was the funniest thing though. Only one decent book find today. There was just nothing book-wise today at all to even like look at. I don't know what was going on there. But a Forgotten Realms. We have Evermet Island of the Elves. It's an older Forgotten Realms, so at least it was a decent book, even though there's nothing else really there. And then just some record finds. These were all in really good condition. It's, in my opinion, horrendous music. But Jimmy Swaggart, and it's a fairly popular Christian music artist. And these do okay individually, but they're all in really good shape. And just lotting them all up together, in total, it was like a dollar for all of them. So whatever, that works. Make a little bit of money on those. So that was today. It was a weird day. Again, not a lot of the usual book and like DVD finds, but a ton of audiobooks and a whole lot of Star Trek. Really cool. Just very, very surprising, and a good way to really get the week started as well. And I hope you guys are having a great week. I should be back at the end of this week. I'm really hoping you'll see my face on Friday, because I'm hoping Xenoblade Chronicles shows up. And just give a quick discussion about that. Maybe we'll see what's going on. I have a couple other video game pickups, and Mana has some things I've been playing. I'll show you later on as other stuff shows up, but I'm playing a lot of Klonoa on the Switch and really enjoying revisiting those. I'd love to hear what you've been up to, if you've been playing any games, because there's so much that's coming out this summer. I feel like there's this just this flood of things in July. There's so much, especially if you are a Switch owner. There's a ridiculous amount of stuff coming in just a 3-4 week period right in the middle of the summer. Like, everyone's like, holy crap, I don't even know what to play because I'm gonna get all this stuff and I have to wait. And like Alive is still coming, and I'm really excited to play that for the first time as a huge 90s Square fan. But with Xenoblade coming, there's no way I'm touching that before October at the earliest. So it's just really crazy. It's definitely a great summer for video games, and it's been okay as far as finding stuff at the thrift store as well.